Report uncovers discrimination against disabled people in Australia's screen industry. A recent report by the University of Melbourne has found that people with disabilities face significant discrimination in Australia's media and entertainment industry. This report sheds light on the treatment of people with disabilities in the industry, including unequal pay and poor physical access to sets. Adi Jajamahaja, a stroke survivor and founder of Alaska 2 Media, is among those helping to support people with disabilities working in the industry. While there is still much work to be done to ensure equal treatment for disabled individuals in the industry, reports like this are an important step in creating positive change. Journalist pays penalty over report slamming referee's conduct. Journalist Zoe Askew has been fined $600 and suspended from her local soccer league, the Latrobe Valley Soccer League in Victoria, for her report criticising the behaviour of a match official. Following her report of a match hosted by Mo United against Sale United, a complaint was lodged. The tribunal found that Ms. Askew breached the league's code of conduct and handed out a sanction that included a 5-match player suspension, a $600 personal fine, and a 3-point deduction to Sale United's women's team. The final charge also required Sale United Football Club to issue a public apology. Sharon lost her dad in mass flash flooding. Now she's slowly putting her life back together. Sharon Radwick, a resident of Eugowra, New South Wales, has finally moved back home after a flash flood destroyed her house. Sharon lost her father in the flood, and this made the recovery process even harder. She and her husband spent 6 months in a caravan while they cleaned up their house. Recently, there have been break-ins in the area, and this has left Sharon anxious about her newly furnished house. Despite this, she is slowly putting her life back together. As cleanup efforts continue, residents' mental health has become a priority. The community is rallying together to support those affected by the floods. Look inside these reformed hoarders' home, even as a funding cut ends vital support. A unique program has transformed the home of 2 hoarders in Port Lincoln, enabling them to move freely in their once cluttered house. A caseworker for the Assistance with Care and Housing Hoarding and Squalor program, which has helped the men, is concerned about the future of 16 other clients whose hoarding may go unaddressed after the program ends. The program is the only one of its kind in South Australia, and is set to finish at the end of June due to a health funding restructure. Decluttering has improved the hygiene of the home and the well-being of its occupants. Title: Woman with guide dog asked to leave hotel in viral video says service refusal still too common. Janice Whittle, a woman who is legally blind and uses a guide dog named Keegan, was recently asked to leave a Toowoomba hotel because of her assistance animal. Unfortunately, her experience is not unique. A survey by Guide Dogs Queensland found that over a third of its members have been refused service in the past 12 months. Whittle has also been denied access to taxis and cafes. The Hearing and Assistance Dog Act 2009 allows guide dogs to go almost anywhere, and penalties for preventing access can be up to $11,000. More education is needed about the rights of assistance dogs and their handlers. Title: Top-end electricity supply to continue relying on emergency gas. The government-owned electricity provider in the Northern Territory has been relying on emergency gas deals with LNG exporters to keep generators running. Power and Water Corporation (PWC) has a long-term supply agreement with Eni to take gas from its Blacktip gas field, but supply issues at the offshore gas field have reduced gas supply so much that PWC has had to rely on emergency agreements. Eni has been trying to fix the supply issue at Blacktip by drilling a new well and overhauling an existing well, but the drill rig's activity has not appeared to have fully fixed the supply issues. The gas supply and trading arrangements are commercial and confidential. Australian wines are going through a golden period, now there's awards to prove it. Australian wines have taken the world by storm by winning the Most Best in Show awards at the prestigious 2023 Decanter World Wine Awards. Margaret River, an area in the southwest WA wine-growing region, stood out with 3 of the top 50 wines. Bruce Duke's 2020 domain naturalist Rebus Cabernet Sauvignon, grown in Willebrup, was awarded coveted Best in Show. Over 72,000 bottles of wine were blind tested by several hundred wine experts and sommeliers over 15 days. The recognition helps emphasize the regionality of Australian wines, and shows an increasing appreciation for the specific terroir of growing regions. Title: What happens to Zaporizhzhia power plant after Nova Kakhovka dam destruction? Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, one of the world's largest nuclear power plants, relies on a reservoir linked to the destroyed Nova Kakhovka dam. The dam was blown up on Tuesday, leading to the evacuation of the war zone, destroying villages, and endangering the crops and supplies of clean water. The reservoir provides water to reduce heat from 6 reactors in the plant, spent fuel, and emergency diesel generators. The dwindling water supplies present a serious situation for the Zaporizhzhia plant and complicate any future prospects of restarting the power plant. However, IAEA chief Rafael Grossi said that water could still be pumped out for a few days after the dam's collapse. Title: Weekly News Quiz. Test your knowledge on the latest headlines. Think you've been keeping up with the news? Take our weekly quiz and find out. This week's questions cover a humpback whale, a nightclub shooting, a golf controversy, and a new look at augmented reality from Apple. Stay informed and have fun with our engaging and informative quiz. Don't forget to challenge your friends and family to see who knows the most about current events. Title: Profits dominate inflation, but what's really causing it? A new report from the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development (OECD) reveals that businesses have been the main beneficiaries of inflation so far. The report shows that unit profits accounted for a significant portion of price rises in 2021 and early 2022, while unit labor costs only began to capture a substantial share of price increases towards the end of last year. However, economists have cautioned against interpreting these findings as indicative of the root causes of inflation. For resource-exporting economies like Australia, the use of the GDP deflator as the inflation measure can skew results, as it is sensitive to changes in commodity markets. Man charged after police officer run over and dragged under car in Perth. A 23-year-old man has been charged with several offences over an incident in Perth's east that has left a serving police officer fighting for his life in the hospital. The constable was critically injured in Ascot about 1 a.m. yesterday when he and his colleagues tried to intercept a vehicle allegedly bearing stolen number plates. The man who remains in custody has been charged with ACTS intended to prevent arrest that caused grievous bodily harm, stealing a motor vehicle, reckless driving to escape pursuit by police, failing to stop when directed by police, possession of a drug implement and possession of a prohibited drug. He is due to appear in Perth Magistrates Court today. Title: Gillnet fishing ban may lead to surge in imported seafood prices, warns fisheries scientist. Consumers in Australia may have to pay more for fresh fish as the Queensland and federal governments impose a ban on gillnet fishing, according to fisheries scientist and commercial fisher Andrew Tobin. Tobin expressed his concern that the ban, due to take effect by 2027, could lead to fresh Australian fish being replaced by imported products. Tobin said that the ban, a result of concerns about the impact of the nets on dugongs, turtles and sharks, would have far-reaching implications, including a rise in the price of fish and chips, and would affect restaurants and other businesses up and down the East Coast. Title: Hobart businesses struggling with youth crime. Hobart's oldest building, the Bank Arcade, has been targeted by young offenders who have damaged plate glass windows, kicked in doors, and set off fire extinguishers. Hobart business owners are struggling with the rise of youth offending, causing them to take measures such as installing security patrols, security doors, and CCTV cameras. Tasmanian children's advocates find it appalling that authorities believe more arrests are the answer. The parliamentary committee heard that just 40 children were responsible for half of all youth offending. Tasmanian Police launched 2 task forces to tackle the issue, but the Police Association is sceptical about the longer term. Travellers fined thousands for trying to sneak plant cuttings into Australia. 4 travellers have been fined $22,000 for trying to bring plant cuttings into Australia in the last month. The cuttings were disguised as Botox, seafood and tea. The passengers were issued with maximum penalties of $5,500 each for biosecurity breaches. Plant cuttings could carry diseases, including Xylella, which has already cost the country's farmers more than $11 billion. Biosecurity officials have been on high alert since foot and mouth disease was detected in Indonesia last year. The laws were amended in 2022, increasing the maximum penalty to $5,500. The first infringement was issued on May 5. Link. Title: Debunked claims of 3-year jail for offensive social media posts in Queensland. Queensland's proposed bill to ban the display of hate symbols and increase penalties for offences motivated by hatred or serious contempt has been misrepresented by the Daily Mail Australia. The bill makes no changes regarding serious vilification in Queensland, nor does it relate to social media. Experts have debunked claims that new anti-discrimination laws would lead to a 3-year jail term for offensive social media posts. The proposed legislation only moves the serious vilification offence to the criminal code and removes the requirement for DPP consent before laying charges. Lack of snow postpones New South Wales ski season opening. With the long weekend approaching, hopes were high for a great start to the New South Wales ski season, but resorts have had to delay the opening due to a lack of snowfall. Conditions in the snowy mountains are warmer and wetter than usual, resulting in a lack of snow cover on most slopes. Resorts such as Thredbo and Selwyn have announced the delay, while Perisher is expected to give an update soon. Though last year's snow season was an anomaly, climate change is starting to impact Australian winters. Protect Our Winters Australia wants to raise awareness of these impacts. Title: Barunga Festival marks 35 years since presentation of Barunga Statement. Description: The Barunga Festival is in full swing, commemorating the 35th anniversary of the presentation of the Barunga Statement to former Prime Minister Bob Hawke by Indigenous leaders. The statement called for a future treaty between First Nations people and the federal government, including recognition of their rights and self-determination. Despite no treaty being established, Indigenous Australians continue to push for formal recognition of their rights. The festival features original 1988 dances, football matches, bush medicine workshops, and a declaration urging support for an Indigenous voice to Parliament in the Australian Constitution. Hashtags. NASA has declared the US is in a new space race with China. How close is it? China has made giant leaps in space exploration and technology over the past year, and NASA is worried. China's space program is far more advanced than we think, according to SpaceX CEO Elon Musk. China has built a manned space station, landed a rover on Mars, and become the first nation to touch down on the far side of the Moon. NASA and the U.S. Department of Defense are keeping a watchful eye on China's space ambitions, and reports suggest that China may become the dominant space power by 2045. The space race between the U.S. and China is far from over. Title: Detectives hunt killer of country driver shot and left in shallow grave. The New South Wales Homicide Squad has launched a manhunt for the killer of John Simpson, a country driver who was found shot and buried in a shallow grave on a remote property in the Hunter Valley. Simpson had been missing for over a month, and police believe he was murdered. The investigation is ongoing, with detectives urging anyone with information to come forward. Simpson's family is still in shock over his sudden and violent death. The community is in mourning, and many are calling for justice for the beloved family man. Dandenong Ranges residents struggle with insurance and building costs 2 years on from massive storm. Residents of the Dandenong Ranges in Melbourne are still struggling to rebuild and repair their homes, 2 years on from a massive storm that destroyed 173 buildings in the area. Despite full insurance payouts, many homeowners are finding that the cost of rebuilding has increased by up to 20%, leaving them unable to afford to rebuild. Problems with insurance have been the biggest ongoing concern, with only 2 of the 12 homes that were demolished having permits to rebuild. The Yarra Ranges Shire Council has also faced delays with its insurer over the damaged Mount Dandenong kindergarten. World's largest ruby sets auction record, and can a robot dog be an art critic? Catch up with the loop. The world's largest ruby has sold at auction for a record-breaking $30 million. The 138.83-carat gemstone, dubbed the Sunrise Ruby, was set in a ring and sold to an anonymous buyer at Sotheby's auction house in Geneva. The ruby is certified as Burmese in origin and is mounted in a Cartier ring alongside diamonds. The previous world record for a ruby sold at auction was set in 2015 for a 25.59-carat Burmese ruby that sold for $30.3 million. In other news, a robot dog has been trained to be an art critic. The AI-powered canine, named Doggo, was created by researchers at Carnegie Mellon University and is capable of analyzing and critiquing artwork. The robot can identify the style, colors, and subject matter of a piece of art and provide feedback on its emotional impact. While it's unlikely that Doggo will replace human art critics, the robot could provide valuable insights and expand our understanding of how we perceive and interact with art. Title: Woman and 11-year-old girl critically injured in Ipswich home stabbing, teen in custody. A 16-year-old boy has been taken into custody after a woman and 11-year-old girl were found critically injured with multiple stab wounds in a home in Rosewood, Ipswich. Police were called to the scene and discovered the injuries. Emergency services transported the woman and girl to the hospital where they remain in critical condition. The 16-year-old boy is known to the injured people and is a resident at the address where the incident happened. Police have declared a crime scene, and no one has been charged at this point. Pedestrian killed in vehicle collision on Major Darwin Road. A pedestrian was killed after being hit by a vehicle on Tiger Brennan Drive, one of Darwin's busiest roads. The accident took place in the early hours of Friday morning, resulting in police warning drivers of traffic diversions for the morning commute. Emergency services were called to the scene, but the pedestrian was found dead. Police are conducting further investigations into the incident. Commuters are advised that traffic will be diverted from Tiger Brennan Drive to the Stewart Highway at Amy Johnson Drive. This marks the 5th death on the Northern Territory's roads this year. Title: Victoria's Chief Health Officer Brett Sutton resigns after stint as face of COVID-19 response. Victoria's Chief Health Officer, Professor Brett Sutton, has resigned from his position after 4 years in the role. Professor Sutton became one of the faces of Victoria's COVID-19 pandemic response, delivering daily case numbers and health updates in widely watched press conferences. He will take up a new position as Director of Health and Biosecurity at CSIRO from September. Despite controversy surrounding Victoria's hotel quarantine system, Professor Sutton's leadership during the pandemic is seen as valuable experience for his new role. His extensive experience both overseas and during the pandemic provides him with a unique skill set for the position. Title: Smoke from Canadian wildfires to reach Norway. Smoke from Canadian wildfires is predicted to reach Norway, according to the Norwegian Climate and Environmental Research Institute. The smoke has already engulfed parts of the US and Canada, and has moved over Greenland and Iceland since June 1. While the smoke may cause some haze, it is not expected to be harmful to people's health. The Research Institute is interested to see the effects of smoke deposition onto ice and snow in the Arctic. With forest fires likely to become more common and of a larger magnitude due to climate change, such events are predicted to be more common in the future. Julian Assange to fight UK High Court ruling to avoid extradition to US. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange will fight against a decision made by the United Kingdom High Court to reject his appeal against extradition to the United States. The Australian national had sought asylum in the Ecuadorian embassy in London for 7 years but was arrested in 2019 after his asylum was revoked. Assange faces 18 charges linked to the publication of tens of thousands of military and diplomatic documents, and his extradition to the U.S. would be the first time a publisher is prosecuted under the Espionage Act. This decision could also impact journalism around the world.